All right, so with the release of the all-new DJI Neo drone, question does come up. Is this a really good beginner drone? What should I get if I were to want to do photography, videography? Should I get something like the Neo? Should I get something like the DJI Mini 4K? There's definitely a bunch of drone options out there for you, but if you guys are completely new to it and you're just like, hey, I want the most affordable drone, I want something that can fly reliably up in the air, but I don't want to break the bank, what are the cheapest drones you would recommend? And it would be between these two right here, the DJI Neo and the DJI Mini 4K. And because we're talking about affordability, the Neo comes in $199. Now with that price tag, you are able to fly the drone autonomously with these quick shots here at the very top, but you're only able to use your mobile phone to control it if you want to actually manually fly the drone. And distance-wise, it would be Wi-Fi based to your phone, and you're only going to be able to fly out about 50 meters in distance. You're able to do a bunch of preset cool shots with it, including follow me functions. But if you're trying to fly this drone out at greater distances, past 50 meters, which is really not that far away, you're going to need to pick up a remote control just like this one. And the remote control will cost you an extra $129. So even though we are talking about beginner drones, yes, you can fly it without a remote control, but I would say you're going to at least want to pick up a remote control, which means that'll take you now to 200 bucks plus 129, $329 for this combo right here. With that said, the next most affordable drone is this one here, DJI Mini 4K. Yes, it's based off of the Mini 2 body style, but it does have the 4K camera, but you're also gonna have all of the reliability as far as transmission goes, because you're also gonna be using this remote control. A very similar remote control, the RCN1C, but you're gonna be able to get the similar distances that you would with the Neo here when paired to the remote. Now this combo right here comes in at only $299, which is actually a little bit cheaper than this combo right here. Now, how do you choose between these two drones? Well, they definitely have some characteristics and some flight options that overlap, but I do think that they sit in two different lanes when it comes to drone piloting, and the type of experience you want to get out of your drone. I think they do sit in kind of two different categories. Now, if you're completely new to drones and you want the ability to have a bunch of different drone experiences, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, you might want to pick up the DJI Neo. The main reason why you might want to pick this up is because one, of course, you can see here, we have full propeller guards built into the drone. So if you are flying this, you're giving it to a young kid or you're flying it indoors a little bit more, you have that protection here on the sides, on the propellers. So if you were to hit any objects, you were to hit the wall, this thing can take a beating. I've crashed this thing a ton of times and it still gets up and flying without any problems. Next reason why you might want to pick up the Neo is that if you just want to capture a quick selfie or droney, you want to capture the area that you're in, you can take this out of your bag. It'll automatically do that quick shot that you chose. It'll do its route, it'll come back and it'll land right in your hand. Pack it up, throw it in your bag and be on your way. Just really good for quick capture of an establishing shot or a droney of a location. Next reason why I'd pick up the Neo over the Mini 4K is that this one actually does have a pretty solid follow me function. So if you're the type to go hiking, biking, and you want to have a camera, a little drone follow you from behind, you can actually do it with this one right here. You're not able to do any of the follow me functions with the Mini 4K. Next reason why I'd pick up the Neo is that when you do pair it with the RCN3 remote control, you can now take off, you can fly your drone hundreds, even 1,000 feet away, and you'll have a reliable signal between the drone and the remote control as long as you're within line of sight. And when you do have the ability now with that transmission to now get up in the air and fly pretty far away, you can do things like get landscape photos, videos. The remote really opens up a lot more possibilities because now you can just pilot the drone and fly it however you'd like. And finally, the last reason why you might want to pick up the Neo is that if you're thinking about dabbling into the world of FPV, first person view where you're flying with a remote control and goggles, and you want to have that full immersive experience, you can do it with the DJI Neo. Yes, you are going to have to buy more gear. You're going to have to buy the goggles, which are pretty expensive. They come in like $499, as well as the motion controller or the other RC, another couple $100 there. So there is going to be a big price jump if you wanted to get into the FPV space. But the great thing is that it is open for you to do with this drone. Now, with all that said, and everything sounds really, really good, now what would be the reason? Why would I ever need another drone then if the Neo can do all of these things? Now, the first reason we'll talk about on why you might want to jump over to the Mini 4K or even the other higher end drones like the Mini 3, Mini 4, Mini 4 Pro. There's a bunch of other ones there, but at the lowest level, why you might want to pick this one up. And the first thing I think of is this right here, the camera. If you know you want a drone and you specifically want it for higher quality videography and photography, you're gonna wanna pick up the Mini 4K over the Neo. While the sensor sizes are very close in size, we have a 1/2 inch sensor here on the Neo, and here on the Mini 4K, we have a 1/2.3 inch. The biggest difference you're gonna see in the video quality out of camera is because of the 3-axis gimbal. With these drones being super small and tiny, they take on a lot of wind, and when they take on a lot of wind, they start moving a lot in the air. And the differences here is that the Mini 4K has a 3-axis gimbal, where the gimbal is actually balanced no matter which way the drone is actually flying. While here on the Neo, it's only a single axis gimbal, and all the stabilization is done electronically in the camera. Now, while the EIS or electronic image stabilization is really good, when you put them side by side, you can see a huge benefit of a gimbal or a 3-axis gimbal in comparison to a single axis gimbal with electronic image stabilization. So if your purpose of having a drone is to try to get and capture really smooth cinematic style video, you're gonna wanna pick up a drone with a 3-axis gimbal because this thing keeps that footage super smooth compared to the Neo. If you're far away from your subject and you're shooting with the Neo, you might not see it that much, but once you get closer to objects and closer to the subject, you will definitely start seeing that movement in the camera on the Neo versus something like the Mini 4K. While the electronic image stabilization does really well, there's not much you can do when it's actually fighting the wind out there, and you'll definitely see some of the footage, you'll see some of it kind of drift, little left to right. You'll start to see some twitching here and there when you are closer to the object or to the subject, where here on the Mini 4K or the ones with 3-axis gimbal, you can do the same maneuvers and it'll be extremely smooth on these types of cameras. Now, both these drones do shoot in 4K, 30 frames a second, and if you are into photography, the Neo does shoot JPEG only. You don't have any RAW capabilities. So if you are using a drone and you want the full flexibility and full dynamic range of your photo, you're gonna wanna shoot in RAW. The Mini 4K has the RAW option. Next big factor we'll talk about is flight time. With the Mini 4K, you can fly up to 31 minutes or 31 rated minutes, which means you'll probably get about 22 to 24 actual flying minutes out there. Where here on the Neo, it's rated for 18 minutes. And of course, depending on the weather, depending on how you're flying it, you'll probably get a solid 11 to 12 minutes out of this drone. Now, with that longer flight time on the Mini 4K, one of the biggest benefits of a drone like this is it does have a little bit stronger motors, especially when you're out there flying and you're fighting wind. The Neo will definitely struggle if you are out there at elevation, flying it out there a couple hundred feet over the ocean, and you're trying to come back into the wind. You are going to struggle a lot more with the Neo compared to the Mini 4K. That is definitely something you need to take in consideration, because if you're planning on buying a drone and you want to fly it over the ocean, you want to get some surfers, you want to fly it at the edge of the pier, and you look at your battery, you're like, oh, I should be okay. I got, maybe 5 or 6 minutes left. The one thing you have to factor in is that this drone is not as powerful as some of these drones. So when you are coming back home, it's gonna be fighting and using a lot more energy and a lot more battery. And there's definitely some times out there when I was flying and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm moving up in the air, because I'll throw it in sport mode, which is the faster mode on the remote control. And you're like, am I even moving fast enough? Am I beating the wind? And you'll see it struggle in the air, and then when you throw up one of these drones, this thing just kind of slices through it. And when it comes down to wind resistance, the Neo can withstand a level 4 wind resistance, while the Mini 4K can take a level 5 wind resistance. Now, both these drones do have some intelligent flight modes like quick shots, and that's basically what this one is really based around. It's based around you putting the drone up in the air, really easy, press the button, and you can do some quick shots with it, and it'll come right back to you and put it away. The one thing I did notice that is different here on these quick shots, or doing the quick shots with something like the Mini 4K, is that you do have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more control over the quick shot. Here on the Mini 4K, when you have quick shots, you can take that drone out a lot further. You could do the helix a lot higher. You could do your circles a lot wider. And when you are able to push that drone out a lot further, the feel of the video just looks a lot different than the Neo, where you're kind of stuck in that closer proximity to the subject, which is normally myself. And when you're able to push the drone further out, you can get a lot more establishing shots in your video compared to what you can get out of this one. The one thing I really do like about the Neo though is that you do have that built-in storage. We have 22 gigs built in here of memory. Here on the Mini, we don't have any internal. You just have to use your SD card here on the back. With all that said, which way are you guys leaning and what do you guys want to use the drone for? If you just want to get out there and fly and get some really nice, higher quality video and photos, you're going to want to step up to something like the Mini 4K and higher. And when I say higher, I'm talking about the Mini 3, the Mini 4, Mini 4 Pro. Those higher style drones, you're going to get higher quality out of them, especially if that's your focus. Also, when it comes to the flight time too, you're going to have a lot more flight time with these drones compared to the Neo. Now you don't have that protection here, so if you're planning on flying and think you could fly it indoors and whip it around the house, yes, they make propeller guards for it, but it's just gonna add to a larger footprint of the drone. And that brings us back to the Neo. Now, why would you get the Neo? Well, this drone right here gives you a little bit of everything. But by giving you a little bit of everything, it also sacrifices in some of those areas. You're not gonna have the higher quality video compared to some of the other drones. The stabilization is electronic, or EIS, so you're not gonna have as stable as footage as you would with something like a 3-axis gimbal. But to be honest, for the majority of the people out there that maybe aren't so worried about getting the highest quality and you just want to have options and a really fun drone to fly, you are not going to be disappointed with the DJI Neo. You can bang this around indoors, hook it up to your remote control, then you can actually fly it out there in great distances. Or if you just want to have a quick establishing shot, just whip it out of the bag, press a couple buttons here, it'll be up and flying, it'll return back to you. Super simple. And like I said earlier, if you want to dabble into FPV and pick up some DJI Goggles 3 and hook it up to this thing, you can now whip this thing around and fly and do a bunch of different acro movements with it. And that's something you cannot do with these types of drones, where here the Neo can actually do all of those fun maneuvers. So hopefully you guys got some value from this video, and if you guys are choosing one of them, let me know which one you guys are planning on picking up down below in the comments section. And also don't forget to watch my full review video on the Neo, where I go through all of the new features, showing you demoing all of the things, with whether it's FPV, flying it with the different types of remote controls, and also all of those automated flight modes you're able to do even without a remote. As always, if you guys got some value from this video, a big like would be much appreciated. This is Ultra Stasio with FlytPath.com. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.